Yo, I don't know what it is about May 2026, but these Gen Z directors need to have their head examined because they keep fucking with mine. Yo, what is up, movie fans? My name is Andrew, aka Noezone, and today I'm going to be giving all my spoiler-free review of Backrooms. And this is yet another horror movie that was released in May 2026, directed by a younger Gen Z director. The other one being, of course, Obsession, directed by Curry Barker, which has been just this absolute sensation at the box office. And that's not to say that Backrooms hasn't either, because the opening weekend for this was, I think, one of the highest opening weekends for a horror movie ever. So I really do think this is audiences saying, like, this is the new wave for horror movies, and just what movies audiences want in general nowadays. Just some cool, new, fresh ideas directed by a new wave of directors. And to give y'all a synopsis of the Backrooms, directed by Kane Parsons, after a therapist's patient disappears into a dimension beyond reality, she must venture into the unknown to save him. And going into this movie, I had like zero expectations. Unlike a lot of people in my generation, I did not know anything about the Backrooms web series besides the fact that it exists. And I only had heard about the web series through this movie getting announced. I just knew that A24 threw some money at a like 19-year-old director. He might have been like younger than that at the time when he got signed on to direct this movie. And the only emotion or like reaction that I had to that announcement was that I was just really happy for this young filmmaker to get this opportunity to direct a movie based on his idea, so that he just got the full creative control on what they were going to do with his IP, basically. And I just thought A24 was dope as hell for giving him that opportunity. And I intentionally stayed away from the web series so that I could go into this with the like freshest point of view possible. And I think this director had said in interviews that you can just go into this as its own thing. Like, you don't have to watch the web series beforehand. I could be wrong about that, but I could have swore I've seen him somewhere say that. So it gave me a lot of reassurance to not go check out the web series, even though I am planning on doing so after watching this movie. I also was intrigued that Chiwetel Ejiofor, I think that's how you pronounce his name, was in it, and he pretty much kills it in every role that I've seen him in. But other than those things, I just didn't know what to expect going into the Backrooms movie. And I can say that I enjoyed this movie a lot as an experience of like it taking you through the Backrooms, but not so much on a story level or a character writing level. And with that being said, I'm going to get into my actual review of the movie now after watching it, starting out with my positives. And first up is going to be the performances, with the two standouts being the lead actor and lead actress, Chiwetel Ejiofor, and Renata Ransfa. I think that's how you pronounce her name. I looked up like 5 different pronunciation videos to make sure I got it right. So y'all let me know down in the comments if I did a good job or not. And they play two characters named Clark and Mary, with Mary being a therapist and Clark being her patient. And they just do a really good job all the way through. I think certain twists and turns that their characters have are very interesting and they are performed well, especially Clark. Just the wide range of stuff that Chiwetel gets to do with that character is just really awesome to watch. And with Mary being a therapist, you get kind of more of her reaction in her performance to those things. But my next positive is going to be the production design. And I think this is just my biggest positive of the entire movie, because it is an absolute marvel that they actually built the Backrooms for this film. And I would love to see like the behind the scenes for this. Like, it almost makes me want to buy the Blu-ray just so I can get that stuff if it's not released online. Just from the moment that you get to enter the Backrooms, you feel the horror and the uneasiness of this liminal space. And I think that's a testament to both the great production design and the great direction by Kane Parsons, especially for his age. There are a lot of directors out there that are like twice his age that could only wish to capture some of the vibes and eeriness that he caught in his feature debut. And I think he's going to have a bright future ahead of him if he continues to do stuff like this. And that leads into my next positive, being his directing and just certain sequences that he crafted within this movie, with 2 scenes in particular, one being a found footage sequence. There was actually like 2 found footage sequences that really captured me and really like scared me. And I think that's impressive on multiple levels, because one, I don't get scared by a lot in movies just because of the amount of horror movies that I watch, and 2, because I absolutely am not a fan of found footage movies, like not even in the slightest. Like I don't think there's any like found footage movies that I actually love. So for 2 found footage sequences to be some of my favorite moments in the movie and some of the most eerie moments in the movie is just a further compliment to Kane Parsons' directing. I feel like the score matched the vibe very well for the film. film, which apparently Kane Parsons actually had a hand in the composed music for this movie as well, along with Edo Van Bremen, at least according to IMDb, which is just amazing that Kane Parsons worked on music for the movie as well. And I just learned that fact live. Another sequence that Kane Parsons directed that I thought showed a lot of promise for him as a horror director was the dinner table sequence. And it reminded me a lot of the OG Texas Chainsaw Massacre dinner scene without copying it in any way, but it just reminded me of it in a lot of ways. And it was by far the creepiest and most unnerving scene in the movie. And I think that is a combination of Kane Parsons directing and Chiwetel Ejiofor's performance. Another part of that scene that is very well done, which is another positive I have with the movie, is the practical effects. Because there are these like certain characters within the Backrooms that there are a lot of practical effects done on them. That's basically all I can say without spoiling too much, but I think those practical effects and makeup were done very well on those characters. And I like the concept a lot of those characters as well. But that's going to do it for my positives with Backrooms. And now I'm going to move on to my mixed section of the review. And these are just the things that I'm just kind of in the middle on. I have some positives about it and some negatives about them, or just feel indifferent on. And first up is going to be this movie's story. And it's not that this movie has a bad story or anything, but it just struggled to captivate me, especially with the character arcs with Clark and Mary. Because while I was interested in their stories and their character arcs in the beginning of the movie, like I think there's a lot of really good setup there. The further I got into the movie with the characters, I just started to lose interest. And I don't think the movie did a good enough job in the middle act, especially, of continuing their arcs very well. And by the end of the movie, when they're trying to like wrap things up, it all feels rushed and messy. And that's where I feel like the story is at its weakest point, is when it's trying to wrap everything up at the end of the movie. Because I remember when the credits rolled, I was watching this with my girlfriend. I kind of just looked over and I was like, I don't know how to feel about that. And that's where I'm going to kind of reference what I said before I started going into my full review, where I said that this movie is better as an experience than it is as a film, because I do think that Backrooms delivers a fantastic experience of just trapping you in this liminal space, and like you're going through it and you're trying to map it out in your head and you're not trying to get lost while the characters are not trying to get lost. It's a very cool experience in that way. But I am more of a person that likes to gravitate towards a really great story or really cool characters and memorable characters. And I just think that this movie severely lacked in that department after the first act. So I'm hoping that this movie does get a sequel, because I am bought into the concept of the Backrooms, and I think there are a lot of tense sequences in this movie that I would like to see new versions of in a second Backrooms movie, but I want the script to take more of a forefront in a sequel for this. So we'll see. I know Kane Parsons has hinted at doing a second movie, and you know, kind of hinting that he's just not done with this world yet, which is nice to see. And with how much money this movie is making at the box office, I doubt A24 is not going to greenlight a sequel. So like I said, I'm bought in. I think this movie did a good job of selling me on what the Backrooms are, but I'm gonna need some better characters and a better script for a second movie, and I think that I'll end up loving it if that's the case. But next up for my mixed section of the review is going to be the pacing. I think this movie for the most part has some decent pacing throughout, at least in the first half. Like, it doesn't take long to get to the Backrooms, and I think some of the character setup that I complimented earlier was well done. But once you get to the second act, I feel like there's a lot of meandering, and I don't think that paid off at all because of the messy third act and finale, like I mentioned earlier. So it ended up making this movie have some very weird pacing, where you had like a normal first act, slow second act, and then the third act was like bonkers insane, and it just was trying to wrap up everything so quickly, and it just ended up being messy and not explaining certain things that probably should have been explained. But moving on to my negatives with Backrooms, and there's not many. But first up is going to be the rewatchability, because I just don't really see myself going back to this movie ever. I'll probably rewatch it if a second movie gets made, and when that comes out in theaters, I'll probably rewatch it leading up. But that's about it. I don't really see myself going back to it. I think this is a decent one-time watch, and I think I got all that I needed out of it with that one watch. Maybe I'll have a change of heart once the second movie comes out and I get that rewatch in. But until then, this is how I feel about the rewatchability, and it is a negative because of that. And my second and last negative with Backrooms is the emotional value, because besides like the scares and the eerie stuff in the movie, I just was kind of like emotionless watching this. There just wasn't a whole lot that captivated me with the characters or the story enough to get me emotionally invested. And it's definitely not the type of movie that's trying trying to evoke a strong emotional reaction out of me, but I at least wanted some sort of emotional attachment to the characters when I really just kind of like didn't care if anything happened to them. And I just wish that the movie made me care more, even though I did appreciate some of the elements with Clark's story. Sorry, I just combined Mary and Clark's name. I think that's kind of funny. And I feel like I understand where Kane Parsons was trying to go with that character and the deeper meaning behind that story, but it ended up coming off very surface level, and I think he should have took it a step further with that character to kind of hammer it a little bit further home for me personally. But moving on to my final thoughts of Backrooms, and overall, I think that this is a decent one-time watch. I think that fans of the Backrooms web series, even though I haven't seen it, I think they will enjoy this, at least from what I've been hearing online. Everyone that's already a fan of Backrooms seems to be enjoying the Backrooms movie, and I think that is truly awesome for them, and I'm glad that they are getting a movie and this like culmination of something that they've been a fan of online getting put on the big screen, and I champion that sort of thing. I'm just sad that I can't be a part of that hype because this movie just wasn't for me. I don't think it's bad or anything, and you'll see that I will give it a positive score, but I really do enjoy the experience of this Backrooms movie. I just wanted the story to hit a little harder for me and for me to have some memorable characters to latch onto. But regardless of my criticisms of this movie, if a sequel gets announced, I'm there day one and I'm going to be excited for it. And anything that Kane Parsons gets to do in the future, I'm going to be excited for because he's 20 years old, I believe now. And he might have been 19 when he actually directed the film. But I think that he has a bright future ahead of him. And I cannot wait to see what he does next, whether that be a Backrooms 2 or an original idea. But with that being said, and without any further ado, this is going to be my scorecard for Backrooms, where I'm going to give it 3.25 out of 5 stars, which is a positive rating on my scale. And on a 10 scale, I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10. And on my personal scale, I would say for the average person to stream this one at home. But for fans of Backrooms, I would say definitely go watch it in theaters. But that's going to do it for my review of Backrooms. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like on it. It really helps out the algorithm a lot. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for more movie content just like this. I'm trying to upload way more consistently than I have in the past this year. So definitely turn on that notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. Make sure you share this video with a friend if you think they would enjoy it as well. Comment your thoughts on the Backrooms movie or if you're planning on seeing it. Check out one of my other videos that are probably popping up on screen right now, especially my Obsession review. That is my previous movie review that I did before this. But as always, guys, it's been Noezone. Peace.